Hello, love. Welcome to the generator video. I appreciate your patience in this. This was a video that was requested, connected to another video message that had come through with regard to Mars energy and generators being the perfect slaves. So we're just gonna go on a bit of a wild card journey here of expansion of that particular message. This was a requested message. I believe it was Simone that requested it. Thank you, Simone, for the request. And now we are finally getting to it, okay? This video, it's going to, I'm not going to go into all the details about what a generator is, human design, etc. It's going to already kind of be based on you already knowing those things, okay? This video is really being made in response to some of the things, again, that were already spoken about with regard to this, but as an extension of that, also for you if you are a generator, and also for you if you are not a generator, but are very interested in understanding how generators work and the dynamic of generators, particularly with your aura type, according to the human design system, okay? For the generator you love, and coming from my own experience of being a generator as well, and sharing that with you, whether you are a generator or not. So I invite you to be courageous and brave and share in the comments below, because in this sense, sharing is very much caring because I find that I just really love to hear and share with other people anything to do with anything pretty much, but especially with this human design. It's really interesting because so far what I've experienced has been fascinating with regard to human design and the layers of it and how it can layer upon other things, different archetypes, different energies, just like with the Mars energy, okay, and how that came up. So I'm taking a look at my notes here and I'm going to link the video of Ra Uru Hu speaking about generators. This is a Richard Beaumont video that I'm going to leave in the description box below. In that video, and in this video that you'll see linked, he's giving a talk on what it is to be a generator, and he's speaking to a room full of generators. Now, Ra Uru Hu himself is not a generator. He is a manifester. And what I really think is interesting, but I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. We may get to that a little later in this video, is the dynamic between manifestors and generators. Because Ra Uru Hu, being a manifester, refers to generators as being the perfect slaves, okay? His pet name for generators is slaves, okay? And he's specifically talking to when generators are in their not self, when they are not true to who they are, they can be the perfect slaves, okay? And I'm just going to read, essentially I'm quoting from the video. The not self generator is a great slave and has been taken advantage of from the beginning of time. The great workers, laborers, the ones that can keep on keeping on and on and on, and usually someone else is benefiting from you keeping on and you are bitching all the way. A continual, okay, I can't even read my notes, but this is what happens. Continual frustration, okay, with what it is to be a slave. A continual frustration with what it is to be a slave, okay? You were conditioned to be a slave from the moment you came into the world because nobody treated you correctly. Nobody has an easier path to being themselves, to being awake, than generators. And simultaneously, generators are some of the most ignorant people that he refers to here that he has ever met, in the sense that they know literally nothing about who they are, nothing. They are deep into the conditioning. And this is also, in a sense, one of their greatest strengths, okay? Because in this same video, he also refers to generators being the most powerful beings on the planet. They can carry within them this extraordinary force, okay? So what I really love about this particular description of what generator energy is like is that in the same kind of breath, we're speaking to a shadow and a light aspect, and then the integration of such. So it's very, Jungian in its sort of energy is how I take it, because on one end of the spectrum, generators can be the perfect slaves when they are in their not self, when they are not integrated, when they are not awakened or aware. And yet on the other hand, they are the most powerful beings on the planet. The planet runs via generators. And this is also symbolic of the energy of the generator being a creative force to be reckoned with, okay? Now, as I am doing this video, I also want to add into that I've obviously opened up sacred space here and allowed for spirit and any other energies that want to come through as I do this to inform this particular conversation. And on that note, we're going to bring in this Mars energy related to the slave, okay? And also there's a Venusian energy that comes in with this as well, especially with the goddess Venus, the energies of the goddess Venus and the god Mars and what they represent in terms of the feminine and the masculine and the higher octaves of that in each case, okay? So Mars energy, this goes back to this whole good little soldier energy. And generator energy can be very much that way, especially when it is in the not self, okay? When a generator is essentially unaware, or perhaps we could even say here unawakened to their truth, they can easily be a very good little worker for someone else and for someone else's dream, for someone else's goal, okay? And when you look at the power structures that have pervaded, that's the word I'm hearing, society for millennia, much of those power structures have been generated via generators. I realize I'm just sort of repeating that, but that's really the emphasis here, is this generation of energy upon generation, okay? There's a play on words here, as always, right? When we think of generations and the evolution of life here on Mama Gaia, this is connected to that generator energy. This is connected to the generative forces that sit within the sacral, that sit within creation, but they're also connected, what Spirit is showing me and what I'm also intuiting from it and what comes through for me. I've always felt them connected to that also doing energy, which is very much solar plexus. So this is where that Mars energy comes in. This is where the energy of doing, of being a good little soldier, of being insatiable in terms of, I can continue going, I can continue going, I can continue going, like it's nonstop, okay? Because generators can have a very high threshold when it comes to their energy output to the point of burnout. And when a generator burns out, like that means they've taken on a lot and they've obviously come to a point of frustration, according to the strategy of the generator in human design, where we're really out of alignment, like something is not, we are more in our not self when we are frustrated, okay? Now, a lot of that also is connected to understanding your authority, whether your authority is sacral or solar plexus, etc., in terms of making those decisions and knowing when you are actually in your true self, okay? And I like to think of it as like your authentic self. When you are not making decisions and not doing things from a conditioned place, all right? Now there's something to say here though about this awakening and this ongoing ascension process and the energy of generators, and the fact that generators tend to be the ones that are most deeply into the conditioning, but they also have the propensity to be the ones to most awaken. Because just like Ra Uru Hu says with regard to them being perfect slaves, they're also the most powerful beings on the planet in terms of that. He also adds here, and I want to add to this, nobody fails or quits more than generators because of the conditioning they encounter when they come into the world, because they've been told to initiate and act like manifestors when they're not, okay? So there's a kind of awareness that comes up here with regard to this conflict, with regard to essentially what I'm hearing now is the division within ourselves. The division within ourselves, okay? And he continues to say that only a generator knows what is right or wrong for them through response, not initiation, but through response. And this is again how that Mars energy can come in quite strongly to simply respond to the battle cry, to simply respond to the call, okay? But how are we using that? That's the bigger question here. And how is that being guided? So the energy of frustration here is a really good way to discern that. And a lot of how a lot of how the generator will feel that is in their body. Okay, now I know that authority is, it's specific to each and every one of us, right? But I also find that with a generator in general, lots of little word fun happening here. A generator in general has is a little bit more in tune, I feel, with their body, okay? Just like this Mars energy is. Now Mars, when we look at the energy of Mars, and by way of that, the energy of the god Aries. Aries in ancient Greek mythology was also referred to, funny enough, as the lover and the dancer. The lover and the dancer. And this is how I see it, a very interesting correlation to the divine feminine counterpart. That is ultimately, it comes like, it's a package that comes together. Whenever we're looking at, according to this law of polarity, right? Whenever we're looking at one energy, we go to the opposite to always understand it, right? And this is kind of the 3D duality and the plane that we function within here on Mama Gaia. But it's the portal or the gateway to understanding how this spectrum actually works at a deeper level. So when this description of Mars comes up as being the dancer, it's actually very much connected to battle and soldier energy and fights. Why is it that traditionally in ancient times and beyond that, we would have dances before going into battle? There's something in the power of dance in terms of raising energy and the creative life force, which is ironic, isn't it? Because we're going into battle, raising the energy of this life force, which is that divine feminine energy from which we all came, Sophia, right? And this energy of Venus, Aphrodite, the energy of this creative force that sits within the sacral. And of course, the generator is very much connected to the sacral. And this generation of life, this generating force of life and responding to life. So it's almost like the Mars energy in the solar plexus responds to the sacral energy that is the life force energy. And this is where we get movement, and this is where we get action, okay? Also, battle cries, the articulating motor, as Ra Uru Hu refers to it, in the sacral that makes sounds. And if you've got sacral authority, you know all about this, right? So if you happen to be a generator and you have sacral authority, it is all about the sounds, and it is all about knowing before you even know. So everything is in the body, and this is another Mars energy and Venus energy as well. It's all connected, but it's the action that you take based on the impulse, and impulse in this sense is that life force impulse, right? That gets generated via the sacral, okay? I just want to see if there's anything else kind of that wants to come through here, because it's really, there's so much more that we could say on this, right? With regard to this connection to this Mars energy, being a generator, the connection to being perfect slaves, right? One of the things, Ra Uru Hu refers to the fact that about 70% of humanity are generators. And half of that, because I believe it's like almost pretty much right down the middle, like around 35% are manifesting generators, because there's that subgroup within the generators themselves. And I feel like with manifesting generators, there is a difference, right? The manifesting generators that I know, I do see a difference. Because pure generators, I feel, can be the most perfect slaves, taking into consideration how a manifesting generator has that connection from the sacral to the throat center, okay, when you're looking at the chart in human design. So there's something about being able to express that. What I find with manifesting generators is that they know, they're clearer, they have that manifesting energy to them, that manifestor energy to them, with regard to being a lot more decisive or clearer in what they want to do, versus a generator who could more easily just sort of, again, work for someone else or work for someone else's dreams or goal, okay? That's not to say, though, that a generator, I want to make this absolutely clear, can't do their own thing. Of course they can. It's just they have to be very cognizant of where they can very easily give their energy to something that is not in alignment with their truth, like a good little soldier, okay? At the same time, though, they are the most powerful. And I'm going to end it on this note with regard to the generator aura, because this is a big part of where it comes from. The generator's aura is very large, it's very enveloping, and it's very expansive. When I see it in terms of kind of tapping into this energy, it is a very magnanimous kind of aura. It kind of reminds me of Leo energy a little bit. It has a certain magnetism to it. It's very generous. It's very giving. And it wants to bring people in. That is where the flip in this power dynamic can switch with regard to what Ra Uru Hu refers to here in generators being the most powerful beings on the planet, because that is the energy of the creative life force. And it's the energy of wanting to unify and come back to this unity. And that's why that energy of Mars and Venus, of Aries and Aphrodite, this sort of creative force energy on this spectrum, is connected to that and to this unifying energy coming together. All right. I'm going to leave it at that. Please feel free and brave to leave, a comment below with regard to how your experience of this is for you. Okay. and maybe even expanding on these concepts connected to Mars and to Venus, the slave energy, and beyond this. And we can maybe make this an ongoing discussion. We'll see how it goes. I thank you so much for being here. Sending you so much love wherever you are, in love and liberation always.